that man's sheep and killed him. What do you do with a man? Well, David probably wished he hadn't answered the question. Because then Nathan tells him, you are that man, and this is the judgment God will pronounce on you. And David repents. I use that because it's a rare situation in the Old Testament. Not the prophet going to the king and rebuking him, but the king actually repenting. That's the rarity. The norm was imprisonment, beating, and death. And this is kind of where we go along in this story. So here another parable, he says, there was a master of a house who planted a vineyard and put a fence around it and dug a winepress in it and built a tower and leased it to tenants and went into another country. You can take much there, and this is a thing that you could take a lot of little pieces and talk about. The detail with which the master of the house took care to plant the vineyard, put a fence around it. It's this beautiful picture of all the things that God had done for Israel. And when the season of fruit drew near, he sent his servants to the tenants to get his fruit. And the tenants took his servants and beat one, killed another, and stoned another. Oh, by the way, the most often way that you paid rent when you rented or leased out land like this was. And so when his servants come, they're looking for the fruit or the produce of the. And you probably see similarities to some of the other parables. Here they are living on the land, the fruit's growing around them. The only thing they have to do to stay there is essentially work the land, work the fruit, and bring fruit so that when the master sends, there's fruit that they can show that they have harvested during the time of the harvest. Rather than that, it says that when his servants go, and the agreement, of course, within the law, the agreement was that Israel was to be a light to the nations, a shining hill. All of these aspects of fulfilling and following the law and looking different from the nations around them. This was an expectation of God's people. And yet, what do you find when the prophets are sent? Jesus uses this parable to say they've come to do and collect that, which it's often this kind of language that we tacitly agree that there's clear meaning works. This has to do with works that if a people is called God's people, then their work should look different than the people around them who are not God's people. Israel in the Old Testament, for those of you that are coming on Wednesday night, we're covering some very unfun